Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for that welcome and introduction. It's great to be here. Michelle and I are very happy to be back in Canada. And I just want to say I really love the learning to lead theme that you have here. I'm a great believer that we can actually learn leadership. And as with many things in life, I think it's not something that's ordained from above, but with practice, with investment in time and planning, it gives the opportunity for us to actually become better at these things and accrue those skills. So I'm sure you are learning to lead as you're here today. In the same way, I think we can also learn to grow as an organization. And being successful in leadership is building on a series of intentional strategies and actions and repeating them until they become part of our DNA. In my experience, leadership takes planning. You get out what you put in. And some of the most inspirational leaders were meticulous planners and invested a great deal of time and preparation. I'm here to talk to you today about how we as an organization need to plan to grow. Just like preparing for leadership, it won't happen by itself. And the directors of zones 33 and 34, as that director, I've had the opportunity to work with an amazing team of Rotary coordinators, public image coordinators, and RFCs, as well as ICAs and innovative club advocates to develop a plan that we call MAP. And I work on the premise that if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm probably in the wrong room. And believe me, I'm in the right room with these guys because they are smart. So let's do some quick audience participation. And since this event is all about you, what's Rotary's top priority? Membership? Okay. And Polio? Absolutely, yes. And Polio is our top external priority. We've got to nail that to keep the credibility that we have in place already. What a party we'll have when that happens. But membership growth is definitely our top internal priority. And I had the pleasure and honor and privilege of being a member of the RI Membership Committee in 2016, which recommended to the board that membership growth be identified as Rotary International's top internal priority. And the board accepted and ratified that, and it remains the same today. So one more question, show of hands. Who believes we're a membership organization? And who believes we're a service organization? Okay, I see the membership team. But as far as I'm concerned, really, even though officially we are seen as a membership organization, I'm not sure it matters. The reality is that if we are going to continue to do the great work we do in our communities and have the impact we have across the world, bringing lasting transformational change, we need to have a strong, growing membership. So, no, you've not walked into the wrong room. This is not a mental wellness therapy session. PTS in this scenario is not post-traumatic stress, and I'm hoping most of you won't have that challenge as you finish your year as DG, let alone as you start. I'm sure you won't. I'm sure you'll have wonderful years. However, the last time I was in Toronto, I had the honor, as you heard earlier, of launching an audacious program to the Rotary world on the stage of the Toronto International Convention. It's called HANWASH, with the goal of bringing clean water and sanitation and hygiene to all the citizens of Haiti forever. But I don't tell you that to show you this photograph of a younger version of me. But if you look down there, you'll see an individual called James McGrath. Now, he's the inventor and entrepreneur. He actually invented the leapfrog and leap pad. And some of your grandchildren, or indeed, Drew, you're young enough, your children might remember using this to teach them how to read and other things. But during that session, he talked about something called PTS. And that PTS is the problem to solve. That's what he's referring to, and that's what I'm referring to today. And it got me thinking as I started my journey with my co-director Drew and President Jennifer and our board about what is Rotary's top problem to solve. And membership stagnation and decline was, of course, having been on the membership committee, top of my mind. My mind, in fact, went back to this graph that I'd requested for a membership presentation at the Atlanta convention when I chaired a breakout there. And it shows membership growth of Rotary since 1905. To those of you who study business theory, it'll be no surprise. It's almost a perfect S-curve, a gradual initial uptake of a product or idea, followed by a rapid, almost exponential growth, followed by a flattening out, typically due to market saturation or change in demand, or, importantly, an organization's unwillingness to adapt. Examples of this might be Eastman Kodak, for example. You remember those? Cameras, photographs? Blockbuster video. Video? What's a video? Or the Quotarians, maybe. Have you ever heard of those? I had the pleasure of sitting a year ago in a new club ceremony for the Rotary Club of Paramaribo Quota in Suriname, on top of Latin America, which is just to the very bottom of the zone that I represent as director of, Zone 34. When I looked into it, I thought, where did that quota come from? And it turned out that this club was being made up of Quotarians that were part of Quota International. Quota International was formed in 1915. It was a service organization, just like Rotary. Primarily women as members, focusing on child maternal health care measures and challenges. Unfortunately, they were not able to adapt. And last year, just before they became a Rotary club, they dissolved. They became a footnote in history. They were not able to jump the S-curve. But the good news is there are plenty of examples of organizations and corporations that have managed to do that by injecting energy and life into their organizations. Example of these could be Apple Computer. When they introduced the iPod, iPad, and iPhone, they became a communications company as opposed to a computer provider. IBM similarly moved from desktops and mainframes into the consultancy business. So imagine, using Jen's words, if we could find a way to jump the membership S-curve and plan to grow Rotary. That said, the bad news is that this S-curve doesn't really represent the PTS, the problem to solve. It's just an aggregate of the global situation. It masks the fact that while Rotary is growing strongly in Asia and India, as you've probably heard, it's stable in Europe and parts of the world such as mine in the Caribbean, but it's suffering badly in the original bastions of strength for Rotary in Great Britain and Ireland, Australia and New Zealand, and of course, right here in North America. In fact, and you can throw rotten tomatoes at me if you like, this is the problem to solve. This is the PTS. We've seen a 12% drop in membership over the past 5 years in North America and a 24% drop since 2004. There are some amazing green shoots that we heard about them earlier on. But then again, this general trend is not something that's universal. Some districts are doing better than others. Within districts, there will always be clubs that lead the way with growth and others that trail behind. And Herb and his team, you heard, have done a great job on getting really granular on this and understanding and identifying the traits of successful clubs. And you heard how that survey is going to go out across North America. But it's so important we understand what that secret sauce is. But before we go on, let me do with one question that comes up regularly when we start these conversations. Well, I don't really want to share bad news with our clubs. Now, my answer to that is that membership growth doesn't happen at Rotary International level. It doesn't happen at zone level. It doesn't even happen at district level, even though we can clearly influence it. It only happens at club level. And unless we identify the problems that are happening right there, the clubs won't know that they even have a PTS, a problem to solve. My club in Grand Cayman is a perfect example. So yes, I live in the beautiful Cayman Islands with Michelle, my beautiful wife. But when I visited my Rotary Club over the past year or so, I actually started to believe I was living somewhere else, in a place called Oblivion. Some of you may recognize these worksheets. I know you've been using them. Over the past 5 years, my club not really bothered. We were the strongest, second strongest club in the district. Barry Rasson's club was the strongest, okay? We'll give him that. We had wonderful, vibrant fellowship. We had great service programs. We were doing really well. But yet, our membership had slipped from 105 at its peak to 81 in just 5 years. In 2020, the president did a membership drive, and we went back up to 100 again. We still thought we had 100 last year when we sat down and looked at our numbers. But like many efforts, that was unsustainable. And very quickly, we went down to around 80 again. It was a boom and bust scenario. So when I met with the membership committee late last year, they figured they had someone in the club whose name was a director. They wanted to know what he could do for them. They were convinced the club was doing just fine. It was doing its traditional projects. The old faces were still there, a little older than they were 5, 10 years ago, but they were still there, just getting older. The club was still renowned as being a passionate club, and they had a plan to grow by 5 members this year, and they were proud of it. 5 members, that's a good, strong growth. But none of them had any idea what the current membership was, even those on the membership committee. And they didn't recognize that even though they were growing by 5, and they probably would grow by 5 in terms of gross numbers, during that same period, we were going to shrink by 10. As I said, we really were living in oblivion. It was only when we looked at the numbers and we realized that we were on a slippery slope. And that was the start of the trend, when they woke up and realized that they had a problem to solve. Having said that, as I sat in the room, and I tried to sit there as an observer rather than someone who was going to take this on as a challenge, they didn't really fully understand how to do it. Many of them went back initially to the old crutch that we need to do a better job engaging and keeping our members. Well, you can't blame them. How many times have we heard that from Rotary International? And it's not totally untrue. We've heard many times, we don't have an attraction problem, we have a retention problem. Of course, we can always do better and try to do better. Create more caring, diverse, vibrant clubs that give the best possible experiences. Returns on investment to our members, if you like. However, the data shows a few things. First of all, attrition rates are remarkably consistent amongst all membership-based organizations. Typically, any organization that's involved in membership tends to lose between 10 and 15% of its membership every year. When my club analyzed our lost members, and we went into granular data on this, we had an average of 11.2% attrition over the past 3 years. Well, it wasn't bad, actually. When we looked into it, everyone was saying we could do better. But analyzing why they left, most of them left because life happened. We lived in a transitional location where people came to work on a contract and left again. So we lost some members that way. Sure, we hoped they went to other Rotary clubs, but our club lost them. They changed jobs, a few got sick. And yeah, we're getting older, a few of us. We had attended their final life celebrations and put them in the ground. It even happens in paradise. But most of our retention problems were due to things outside of our control. And in fact, even though our club was still a pretty good place to be, even though it was still vibrant, and even though we still enjoyed it, we were still shrinking. We moved from thriving to surviving, and frankly, we were now on the danger list in 5 years. But we understood that we simply could not retain our way to growth. Name any thriving business or organization that it isn't trying to attract new customers. Attrition is real, and it's not something we need to be ashamed of. Every club will lose members every year. Quite simply, what we need to do as our club was to attract new members at a higher rate than they were leaving. We needed to attract as well as retain members. Eureka! This was the problem to solve. This was our PTS. So we put actions in place. We put plans in place with the knowledge that we didn't need to attract 5 new members this year. We needed to attract 10 new members this year, and that would see us having positive growth. And we put a plan in place to achieve this. Now, I went back to living in the beautiful Cayman Islands. I was no longer living in oblivion, and neither were they. Satisfied in the knowledge that they knew what they had to do to grow, to maintain their position as one of the preeminent clubs in our district. They'd come to understand that our biggest truth in membership was that they needed to both attract new members and retain our existing ones. So whilst we're on attraction and attrition, how do we compare globally? Well, the reality of our world, our Rotary world, is that we're all different. One size definitely does not fit all. For example, this is me in Iowa at a recent district conference. And there, Iowa Rotarians find it fun to throw cream pies in the face of a director-elect. They don't dual pianos, they throw cream pies to raise funds for the Rotary Foundation. Now, I heard what you do for fun. You did it last night. In the Cayman Islands, we have a run sipping contest, or we have a beach barbecue to raise funds for the Rotary Foundation as well, but we don't throw cream pies in my face. So my point is, we're all different. I absolutely, and joking apart, we accept that all clubs and districts are different. We need to. But it doesn't mean there's not value in analyzing the common threads and trends and learning the lessons and best practices, whether it's club by club, district to district, or as we're doing here today, zone by zone. That says our experience is that the data doesn't lie. It applies on a national, regional, district, and most importantly, club by club level. Last year, Rotary International, the attrition rate was 14.6%. Traction, 14%. Net gain of 0.6%. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. Come, let's celebrate that. 1.2 million members, close to. It's not bad. Of course, it masks the regional differences. In North America, the attrition rate was 15.5%, attraction 12.1%, so there's a net loss of 3.4%. So just like my club, we need to attract more than we retain. Easier said than done, apparently, because we've not managed to do that over the past 20 years. In India and Asia, well, they're growing significantly, right? We know this. So what are they doing different? Well, you may be surprised to know that their attrition rate is 17.6%. They lose 17.6% of their members every year. So they're actually retaining less members than North America. But their attraction rate is a whopping 21.7%. leading to a net gain of 4%. Now, part of the reason that this is achievable, obviously for them, is they have a massive untapped market for Rotary due to the population size. But if you look at that S-curve, remember the one that went up like that? They're at a different point than we are on it. They're up that exponential side of it right now. They're still halfway up. So maybe they need to be aware of some of those challenges that might come in the future. Now, on the other side of this, go to places like Germany and Switzerland. Have you heard the story there? Attrition rates is 3.4%. They only lose 3.4% of their members every year. Lowest in the world. Amazing, you may say, and they have an attraction rate of 4.1%. So they're actually growing very slightly, at least holding their own. The problem is, with an average age profile of 78 to 82, and I'll use past RA President Ian Risley's words here, they're heading towards a tsunami of extinction. It's not an ideal scenario. Now, the great news is that none of these states are permanent. And the good news for Rotary is that regional plans are popping up all across the world to help us plan to grow. In fact, the Council of Legislation just recently approved 2 pilots for very different membership and governance models, one in Rotary Great Britain and Ireland, and the other one in Zone 8, which is the Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific Islands. And those were the outcome of the board's initial committee called Shaping Rotary's Future. The committee's work will form the basis of a new focus on regionalisation for the current board, and I believe the future boards. Our priorities recognising, again, that we are all different and one size does not fit all. So what about the USA and Canada, you may ask? What's our plan here? Well, there's the innovative club initiatives, and I think you'll be talking about those later, which started 3 years ago, recognising that the most growth in Rotary's recent history has occurred when new types of clubs are formed. And it's a very important area where we're starting to see green shoots of growth and success, such as satellite clubs, cause-based clubs, companion clubs, and most recently, impact clubs, which are community service-only clubs attached to a club as a companion club, giving other opportunities and pathways into Rotary. However, the fact remains that if we're going to be successful as a membership organisation and to grow, we need to focus on the challenges that our traditional clubs face. Remember, innovative clubs only remain new for so long, and they are not immune to the challenges of attraction, engagement, retention, and attrition that every traditional club faces. So as you heard, I enjoy big, hairy goals like bringing clean water to Haiti and working with amazing teams to try and help us do that. Well, with the support of past RA Director Peter Kyle and now Rotary International President nominee Stephanie Yurchik over the past 2 years, they and I challenged the smartest membership and regional leader minds of zones 33 and 34 to come up with a new plan to grow. And we called it our MAP, or Membership Action Plan. The goal of our MAP may not sound glamorous, but we believed the key to sustainable growth is to aim for moderate, consistent growth, which will reverse the slide of year-on-year losses. And our target will be a modest 5% per annum. So that's 5 members for a 100-member club, 2 for a 40-member club, 1 for a 20-member club, 2.5 for a 50-member club. Well, doesn't work quite as well. But moderate, consistently achievable growth is sustainable. To do this, we need to change the culture, not only in our clubs, but also firstly in our zones, in our districts, and in ourselves. We also need to change the messaging from RI, because it's not just about retention, it's about attraction as well. And I can tell you, the great news is we've had tremendous support from the very top of Rotary International for this program. Jim Barnes, Brian King are 100% behind it, to the extent they've invested funds in making it happen with us. And they're by our side every way, so I couldn't thank them enough for that. We need to change the fact that we consider ourselves just to have a retention problem. And our problems needed to be analysed on a club-by-club basis, as I showed with my club. And the solution is understanding that attraction-attrition equation. And we needed to do this by offering the clubs simple, step-by-step, bite-sized, intentional membership growth strategies. And Herb's heard some of these when he was at Zone 33's seminar recently. The goal is to help break the boom-bust cycle that my club also experienced in 2020, when we rose up and went back down again the following year. So the plan can't be an annual one. It needed to be a multi-year one. As Bill Gates once said, we often overestimate what we can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what we can achieve in many. In this sense, our governance model even seems to work against us for most aspects of what we do in terms of continuity. And for us to reach our full potential as Rotarians, not just in MAP, we need to ensure our club leaders understand the importance of continuity. And I know President-elect Gordon has talked about that passionately. I know he's working so closely with President Jennifer, and will be, I'm sure, with President nominee Stephanie. And the Empowering Girls program is a great example of that continuity and what it can bring to the table. So, as district leaders and regional leaders, we need to set an example and walk the walk in terms of continuity as well. The problem to solve is not a one-year fix. And our MAP program has adopted a 4-year cycle to build year on year, repeating a consistent message, making membership growth part of our DNA and culture. So how do we do this? Well, our membership gurus got together and came up with a 3-pronged approach. The plan needs to be data-driven, as we talked about. There are too many decisions made based upon anecdotes. And by the way, anecdotes, the plural of data, sorry, let me start again. The plural of anecdote is not data. And the data needs to get to our clubs, not just at district level. This way they can understand their problem to solve. However, the data is of no use unless a club has the tools to adapt and improve. The tools to know how to use it to solve their particular challenges. None of this is rocket science. Most of it is blocking and tackling, as one of our team members puts it. Do the simple things at the right point of the membership process. Intentional step-by-step best practices, building, maintaining, and growing membership. To do this, we introduce monthly webinars, methodically dealing with each step in the membership process. The goal is to provide clubs with information, best practices, and resources. Digestible, bite-sized chunks, if you like, targeting our club leaders and providing a simple map to allow them to reach their goals. And lastly, we want to allow them to motivate themselves by a rewards program. So why are we data-driven? For membership, past performance does predict future results, and data-driven solutions give us an understanding of where we are and help us create a path and measure success with real-time data. And of course, whilst at the moment we're handling most of this through PDFs and written reports, I'm very proud to announce, with the collaboration of the membership team at Rotary International, that in the first quarter of 2023, we will be rolling out the zone's new database and website. This will take those spreadsheets that you get from Rotary International, you know, those ones, multiple columns, up and down and rows, and they'll convert them into an easily usable interface, a tool which will be web-based, an interactive resource that our clubs and districts can use to map their plan to grow. It'll provide useful graphs, tracking and progress, and also prescriptive solutions and comprehensive database tools for clubs to help them achieve growth, as I said. The second element, as I mentioned, are these bite-sized chunk webinars designed for the new president and the newest club membership chair to understand, follow, and implement immediately. The first of these, our Rotary map sessions as we call them, dealt with creating a membership pipeline. The second, last week, was connecting with prospects. Building on session 1, show clubs how to connect with prospects that they've now identified and map their path into Rotary. On this webinar, we focused on the highly successful Discover Rotary program used by one of our thriving districts. Next session, which you're welcome to attend, we'll be dealing with meaningful onboarding. And so on throughout the year. 11 webinars in all each year, and we'll adapt and repeat them every year until their content becomes part of our club's cultures. The third element of MAP is what you did this morning. We need to reward and recognize through an awards and recognition program. And whilst moderate, consistent growth is the goal, we want to make sure we recognize clubs and individuals and districts who participate and implement the MAP program to achieve their goal. The Foundation does a great job doing this, and we need to do likewise with membership. When was the last time a sponsor received a note from a senior Rotary International leader thanking them for bringing in a new member? We want our members' winning instincts to come through, but we also want to encourage our clubs to participate and recognize those who are successful. So 2 important points. Firstly, this is an opt-in program which relies upon our clubs wanting to participate. It's much more carrot than stick-based. We want to see our clubs and districts see this as a resource and an asset, not an obligation. This doesn't mean we won't be honest about showing them where they are, but it means we'll support them all along the way. And the last point is this program is not intended to replace any successful club or district programs already working. If you're doing well, we don't want to fix it. We just want to support you in the process. The first webinar, when we launched the program, had 600 attendees. The two initial bite-sized chunk webinars had around 450 attendees, all from clubs attending. Our goal is to get as many as the 2,000 presidents as possible and their membership chairs to those meetings. So we'll be happy when we get 1,000 attendees on each of those webinars, 50%. My friends, we've only just started this journey. And to an extent, we're very much building a plane as we're flying it. But we hope and believe we're onto something here. And to the extent it applies to you, we're exceptionally happy to share it with Zones 28 and 32. Thank you so much for listening to me today. I understand this message is a hard one. I don't see any envelopes on the stage. I will take dollar bills. We are looking forward to enjoying Rotary with you, and I really hope you don't have any cream pies in the wings. Thank you again.